You are listening to the Horse Radio Network, part of the Equine Network family.
What a beautiful day for horses in the morning.
You are listening to the #1 horse podcast in the world. Here is your entertaining look at the horse world and the people in it.
Well, good Tuesday morning, everybody. I am Glenn the Geek in Ocala, Florida.
And I'm Karen Chatton from Gardnerville, Nevada, and you are listening to Horses in the Morning on the Horse Radio Network for May 13th, episode 3690. This episode is sponsored by the Arabian Horse Association. Good morning, Horse World!
When your start time's on Saturday and your finish time's on Sunday, and it doesn't get much better than best conditioned, and completing the challenge is the challenge, you're an endurance rider.
Well, that's right. It is Endurance Day here on Horses in the Morning. Karen, what happened to your voice?
I know. Well, I did this endurance ride on Saturday, and it was over 90 degrees. Then I came home, and we had like these extreme high winds, 80 miles an hour,
Oh, wow.
Power outages, all sorts of things going on. Trees were blowing down in the area, fences, power lines. And
Well, that's
I don't know.
hurricane force winds. That's strong.
It's crazy. Yeah, Washoe Valley had 100-mile-an-hour winds. And so for some reason, my voice blew away along with the wind because I was out taking care of horses. You know how it is. You come home, you have to unpack, take care of everybody and everything. And so, yeah, my voice is not tip top right now. Sorry.
No, that's okay. I mean, it's not like Jamie and I haven't done it with our voices being a little wacky at times. It just happens.
Oh, gosh.
We can hear you.
I know.
That's what counts.
Good.
So today on the show, you're going to share about your ride at the High Desert 50 and also offer tips on trail etiquette and safety. And then we have Diane Whitlock joining us about her experiences as an older rider transitioning to long-distance riding with an older horse. Plus, we have Kristen. She's the equine product manager of Sentinel Feeds on how extruded feed can help the endurance horse. All of that on today's show. And let's get started, though. We'll have to start right away because we got a lot to do. So how'd you do over the weekend at the High Desert 50? First of all, where was that?
Oh, it was in Fallon, Nevada. And that's the northern part of the state in the West region. And it was a pretty well-attended ride. You know, a lot of the rides aren't as big as they used to be, but I believe we still had 30 riders in the 50 and 14 riders in the limited distance. I rode Jovi in the 50, and we had a pretty good day. My goal all the time was just that we wanted to finish, and I knew we needed to kind of get moving early on in the morning. We had a 6 a.m. ride start because it was predicted to be up in the 90s as far as the temperature went, which is hot.
And this time of year especially, yeah.
Yes, you know, and it's called High Desert for a reason. We are in the high desert and we're climbing mountains. As anybody that's been to or through Nevada knows, we are a very mountainous state. There's a lot of elevation here, and it really did get hot. So my plan was to get moving, which I did, and we kind of kept up a really good steady, solid pace all day long. And that seemed to work really well. I've been working through some problems with my feet. So I've been wrapping them with KT tape and using insoles and just doing everything I can to try to help keep me, the rider, sound. The horse is not the problem.
Yeah, I was just going to say, usually we're talking about the horse's feet.
I know. The horse is great. The horse is doing fine. It's the rider in this case. And so the main thing was for me to, you know, do what I could to get myself through it in a reasonable amount of time without suffering through heat stroke, but also to take care of my horse, which, you know, that does count too. He's important. But he actually, you know, he's come a long way. I've been riding him 3 years now, and we had a fantastic ride. He He does so good. And this is a rocky ride. And I can tell everybody listening, if a Nevada rider tells you a ride is rocky, you can believe them. It's rocky. It's going to be rocky. There were people on this ride going, holy moly, I thought Virginia City was rocky. And if anybody knows Virginia City, it's got a reputation for being really, really rocky. Well, yes, this ride is rocky. Jovi lives up to his name. He was a rock star. He danced his way through and over all the rocks just like a pro.
Are you using boots on him too?
Oh, yes. Yeah. Yes. He uses Renegades. In fact, I just got some new colors. The boots are purple and orange.
That's a combination.
And yes, and I got a new saddle pack at the trade show. And so, yeah, we're very colorful. So,
and how did he handle the heat?
He handled it really, really well. In fact, he drank, I think, the best he's ever drank on a ride, which was probably really good that he did, because it was a tough ride with lots of elevation and climbing, and it was hot. And of course, it is desert. So you also have not just the heat, but the radiating heat that radiates off of the ground. And so he drank so well. He finished completely sound, well hydrated. You know, he did great. We finished at about 2:28 in the afternoon, so a 7-hour and 15-minute ride time, which was really, really good. It put us in the top 10.
Oh, wow. So
yeah, we had a pretty good day. It was probably one of the nicest rides I've had on him ever. And I think I'm starting to let him move out more, because like I had mentioned, I've been riding him for 3 years now. So I'm starting to feel more comfortable. He's got a nice, solid, long base on him. He's 10 years old and he's just rock solid.
Does he seem to enjoy it?
Oh my gosh. Too much. He loves it. In fact, he's starting to get a little more competitive than he needs to be. He loves to go. He loves to pass. He doesn't like if other horses try to catch up and pass him. so he's got it
thoroughbred
figured
coming out there.
Oh, yes, for sure. For sure. Yes. It's like, Joey, relax. And so a lot of times I look down and we're trotting at like 12 miles an hour. And normally I like to keep them trotting at 10 or less. And then I'm letting him canter, and it's like, Jovi, you're going like 16, 17 miles an hour. Cool your jets, dude. We got to slow down. Oh, we got the vet check coming up. We got to slow down, because you got to go in and pulse down at 60. So yeah, that's, I can't really complain. I appreciate that he's become so athletic and so good at it. So it's been just for anybody listening to know, it takes a long time. These horses aren't made overnight. I've put in 3 years into this horse so far to get where we're at. And so it's really kind of fun and exciting all at the same time to have one that's finally, he's able to not just keep up a faster pace, but we're able to do longer intervals when we are doing the trotting and the cantering. And he's just in the last 3 rides, he discovered he likes to canter. So we're working on adding more and more of that in as we go, which is a lot of fun.
And this one was closer to your house. You didn't have to drive 12 hours to get there. So that's nice.
I know. Yeah. It was only 90 miles.
I know. That's for great. You. That's like nothing. Well, congratulations, both of you. Well done.
Thanks.
I think you sound a little rougher than he probably does this morning.
He doesn't look like he did anything.
Right, exactly.
His legs are tight and cool. And, he's
just trying not to blow away at this point, right? Yeah.
Exactly.
Well, congratulations with that. So we're going to get back to Karen in just a few minutes here. We first have to hear from Kristen over at Sentinel Horse Feeds, a brand new sponsor of the Endurance Show. We're proud and happy to have a couple new sponsors of the Endurance Show, and we we like doing this show, and it's what keeps the show going, is having support like this. So we're going to hear how extruded feeds help the endurance horse. And Jennifer was the one who caught up with Kristen.
And I'm happy to welcome to the show this time around Kristyn Sturken from Sentinel Horse Feeds. And we're going to talk a little bit about how extruded horse feed can help endurance horses specifically. So welcome to the show, Kristen.
Thank you very much. Excited to be here.
So with extruded horse feed, how is the bioavailability of an extruded horse feed different than a not extruded horse feed that could be so beneficial to our endurance horses?
Yeah, a great question. So we are doing a lot with extruded horse feed. And extruded horse feed, it's more common a term, as the years go on than maybe it was 10 years ago. But we found a term that really relates to a lot of horse owners. If you think of like extruded feed or it goes through an extruder, it compares to a pressure cooker if you were pressure cooking, human feed.
So you guys have giant Instapots for horse feed.
Giant Instapots. Yes. Called extruders. So that's, hence the term, but it's a cooked process. So we take, all kinds of horse ingredients, feed ingredients, but they go through an extruder. We add moisture, we add steam, and then that pressure are all used to cook the feed to higher temperatures than a pellet would be made. That has a lot of benefits, to the horses, to the endurance horse. Those benefits include kind of pre-cooking or pre-digesting the starch that's in that feed as well as the protein. And I don't want people to be afraid of the starch, but what that does is the starch, the little starch that's in the feed, it ensures that the starch and the protein gets digested where we want it to be digested. It's more digestible, it's more available. So we want things like the starch and the protein digested in the foregut, in the stomach and the small intestine. So the cooking helps with that. It's one step closer, to digestion. We don't want, especially the starch, to get to the hindgut and potentially cause things like gas colics. So the cooking or the extruding of the feed really helps with that. We want that digested in specific places. Along with the higher digestibility, we also, get that brings higher nutrient utilization. So the horse and the endurance horse needs specific things over long periods of time. They get better nutrient utilization. They just sheer get more out of the feed. We see better feed efficiency, which in the endurance horse, you don't want to have to feed tons and tons of feed. So we typically find, compared to a traditional pellet, that people can feed 5 to 10% less and still get the energy, the calories that horse needs to sustain, the protein that horse needs to sustain. So those are, just a couple of the benefits, that we get with extruded feed. We can get higher fat in these horse feeds because of the cooking process. So that certainly helps the endurance horse in competition. They need to be performing at a, moderate level for long periods of time. So that high fat helps with the stamina as well. So just a few of the things. There's other things that we could talk about as well with extruded feed. It breaks down really easily.
Well, I was going to ask that question because It's very common for endurance horses to eat their foods wet to maximize their hydration. Compared to a pelleted feed or even a pelleted hay, how easy is it to put into water and kind of make a little slurry?
Super easy. We actually developed a little test that we show when we're at, a vet conference or, consumer shows, that if you compare the extruded nugget, we call them, compared to a pellet, the extruded nugget breaks down really easily as soon as you put that water in the cup that we use, or as soon as it touches the horse's saliva. So it will make a really nice mash. What's really also nice about the soaking capability of extruded feed is if you soak an extruded feed our test happens to be we just soak it for 5 minutes just for demonstration. But you can then pick up one of those nuggets, and the nugget will still look like it's kind of whole. But if you just rub it between your fingers, it's completely mush. Compared to if you do the same thing with a pellet, same amount of time, same amount of water, the outer layer of that pellet gets soft, but it's still a hard pellet in the middle, in between your hands. So the extruded feed makes a great mash, gets hydration into the horse. The other thing that the ease of soaking does is those extruded nuggets, they just are completely broken down, where the pellet, they can kind of, not going to use a technical term here, but kind of glob together or form kind of a bolus, in the back of their mouth or in the esophagus, and has higher potential for feed related chokes with a pellet compared to extruded. So we really cut back on the risk of any feed related choke because it breaks down that easily. So makes a nice mash.
There we go. So another thing that we're always concerned about with endurance horses, or any horse for that matter, is digestive issues that are related to rides and stressful events, trailering, things like colic and others. Are there ways that creating your extruded feed, because I learned last time I talked to the folks at Sentinel that your extruded feed isn't the same as somebody else's extruded feed for various and sundry reasons. Are there things that extruded feed can help give us some peace of mind as far as colic and other digestive upsets are concerned?
Yes. So we mentioned one with the cooking process helps to pre-digest that starch. So really helpful in, decreasing or minimizing the risk of some gas-related colics, if we had a gas-related colic, because we're getting that starch digested in the foregut. So that's, one way that we can help with colic type situations if they're related to gas. The sheer digestibility, higher digestibility of the extruded feed also helps with, the total digestive system. Another thing that we can get in these extruded feeds are good amount of fiber, high fiber levels, which is important for, any horse, but especially important with endurance horses because they need good, high quality sources of fiber to keep that hind gut functioning properly. Whenever we start with any feed program, we want to start with the hay or the forage that horse is going to get. We can also get good levels of high quality fiber in these products, which helps keep the total digestive tract healthy. In addition, we talked about it breaks down really easy. They will look like and they will take a little bit longer time to chew this feed. So that's helping them get more out of the feed. And if we're getting feed into their stomach a little bit slower and into their system a little bit slower, that's helpful with digestive tract as well. We can keep the starch and sugar levels low, which that's also a great thing for the total digestive tract. And in addition, we are adding some additional additives to the product. We have something in the product that we call Gutwise, but we can get prebiotics, probiotics, some marine source calcium in these feeds that helps. The calcium helps specifically for horses that have a history of ulcers. It helps to buffer the stomach. And, all of these things go to helping overall gut health or stress-related performance, horses in stress-related performance or travel. And, we know how important the digestive system is to keep that horse, healthy, happy, performing. 75% of the horse's immunity cells live in that digestive system. So super critical to keep it functioning properly and healthy.
Cool. So if somebody's curious about Sentinel horse feeds, in particular your extruded lineup of feeds, where can we find more?
You can go to feedsentinel.com and that'll take you right to our Sentinel page there, we have a great feed finder also that you'll see a button on that site that'll walk you through kind of, what's your horse's age and what are you doing with your horse, and asks you about your hay, and it'll make some product recommendations. And we have a great in-house staff too that, if anybody wants to just call us directly or email us directly, you can do that too from the website. And you may get myself or Dr. Rob or one of our great, customer service person will point you in the right direction.
Perfect. Thanks a lot, Kristen.
Thank you very much.
Well, in Karen's endurance tip this month, we're going to be talking about etiquette and how not to be a jerk. Is that right?
Exactly.
Okay.
I'm going to have some fun, laid back kind of tips for keeping chill and safe while long distance endurance or trail riding, especially when it comes to things like gates, water stops, passing, and if you have a feisty horse.
I don't know anything about that. All right, let's get started.
Yes, we had some feisty horses at the Ride Start Saturday. And so
Beginning of the year, you're going to have some. Yeah.
Yes, and then the early morning starts when it's cool in the morning. The horses get a little bit frisky. And so, all of us as riders, we just need to keep our heads on straight. And something I always tell people is we all need to have some situational awareness. I get that we all want to get focused, and I know that happens with me, especially if my feet are starting to bother me, where you start to just your world closes in on you. But it's very important to keep that situational awareness as you go, because you need to be paying attention to not just what is going on around you, but how you are contributing to others around you as well. So when you're going down the trail, give a heads up. If you're catching up to somebody and you want to get by, you holler out and say something like, rider coming, or I'm behind you, passing on your right or your left. And that way they know you're coming. Their horse kind of knows you're coming. It gives them a chance to kind of move over if they need to, depending on what the trail is like. So that's always just, polite etiquette. If somebody is coming along behind you faster and you can hear them coming up, you can also ask, do you want to pass? And then move over, get off the trail, and if your horse is being fussy and excited at the start, go ahead and move over, get off of the trail, get out of the way. And that works both ways, whether you're passing or being passed.
Okay.
And when you are getting passed, don't race, don't make it a competition. Chill out, hold your pace, or slow down a little bit. Let the person get ahead of you. You don't want to turn it into a race. So, it's so frustrating when you're trying to pass and the person or people ahead of you start speeding up.
That's true of in a car too, isn't it? When you're driving.
It is. It's just like driving on the freeway. It's the same thing. You get into the passing lane and everybody speeds up.
Yep.
And then what happens is you end up out of the passing lane and now they slow down in front of you.
Yep, that's right. Yep. I guess it's harder on the single tracks, right? Then it's tough, but
exactly. Yeah. Yes. Or if there's edges and drop-offs, or there's ruts or dibs, water crossings, all of that adds into the challenge. That's why it's nice to, try to be considerate of other people and how things are going, not just like I've mentioned before with your ride, but with their ride too, because you don't want to flub somebody else up. And if everybody views it the same way, that they also don't want to flub you up, as well as you don't want to, mess up their ride or cause an inconvenience or a wreck, then everybody gets along and has a good time.
Right. Yep. Okay.
So, and it's a good idea if you have a horse that could be a kicker to put a red ribbon in the trail.
Yep.
People use yellow ribbons for stallions or a green ribbon for a green horse. So watch out for that. Space out. You want to leave a good horse length or two.
No
just
tailgating.
like on the Exactly.
Literally.
No tailgating, literally. And just like if you're on the freeway, the faster you're going, leave more space in between. And I like to put my hand up like as a signal that I'm slowing down or something because there's an obstacle. Because if somebody's a horse or two behind you, they can't always see what the obstacles are, that there's a washout or a dip or rocks or something like that. So, try to be considerate there. Let people know if you're going to be slowing down, but also give plenty of space. When it starts to get busy and crowded, kind of dial back, give people even more space and be a little bit more careful about not bumping into other horses and causing, a traffic jam.
Okay.
It's a good idea to stay on the trails. If you need to pass, as we said before, call out. And most of the time, people are going to be accommodating and they'll say, I'm going to move over as soon as I can. You do want to stay on the marked trails as much as possible and not take shortcuts or cut the switchbacks or cause any damage whenever possible. When you come to gates, this is something that's really important. And it really is. If somebody stops and gets off and opens the gate and lets you through and then closes the gate, the best way to handle that is to stop and wait for them to mount back up. You do not want to ever take off and leave them. Now, it's different if they say go ahead, because maybe they need to take a little break for some reason after that, and they're okay. But you need to ask and make sure that's clear, because if a group of riders go through a gate and then they all take off and leave the one sole person that's left closing the gate and then having to mount and their horse is spinning around in circles, they're not going to be real happy with you. So you want to definitely have good gate manners. And if you're riding with somebody, if you can, it's good to say, hey, I'll get the next one. And then you take turns.
The drinking thing next is something I'd never thought about.
Yes, drinking manners is really important. And horses do need to learn that sometimes they're going to be left because, you can't wait for everybody, especially when there's more horses coming. You have to get out of the way so the new horses can get into the water to drink. But if, you approach a water trough or a watering hole or creek at the same time, you want to check with whoever is there with you. Is it okay if my horse leaves while their horse is drinking? Because sometimes that will disrupt the other horse and it will cause them to stop drinking. So it's polite to hang out and wait a few extra seconds to wait for another horse to finish drinking, unless the person, of course, says, no, it's okay, go on ahead. My other friend is here, or there's other horses coming, so you go on ahead. But it's just polite to check and make sure, because you don't want to mess up another horse drinking, just like you don't want someone else to do that to you. Another thing that's polite to do when you're doing a ride is to give the props to the volunteers. Tell people that are there helping and volunteering, thank you. We appreciate you being here. Whether they're taking your numbers or your end time or helping out at the vet check or hauling out your crew bags to an OA check. Let them know you appreciate them. And that continues on to cleaning up your mess. So if you're at an OA vet check, or even when you're in camp at the vet stops and checks, clean up after yourself. Don't just put out all your stuff and then dump it out and leave it. Clean things up, pack up any trash. Find out if it's okay to leave any manure or hay spread out. But, kind of follow the suggested rules at any event that you're at and leave things as clean or better than you found them.
Leave no trace, right? That's what.
Yes, exactly.
That's what the hikers say. Leave no trace.
Exactly. And just, try and be polite and considerate of other people and hope that they will do the same to you. And we can all go out and have a nice, safe ride.
Well, the Arabian Horse Association is a proud sponsor of the Endurance Rider podcast. The Arabian horse was born in the desert, built for endurance, and proven on the trail, as my co-host can attest. Each year, we celebrate this legacy at Distance Nationals, where riders of all levels come together for an unforgettable competition. This year, we're heading to the Old Salem Ride Site in New Centerville, Idaho. Join us for the National Championship rides and open rides, all showcasing the heart and stamina of the Arabian horse. Ready to ride? Learn more at arabianhorses.org. Have you been to the Old Salem ride?
I haven't. I've heard it's a really nice ride, though.
That'd probably be a hike for you, wouldn't it? Yeah.
Sure, but, that's
all of them are hikes for you.
sometimes a lot of them are worth it. It's worth it.
Well, that's great. So we really do appreciate the Arabian Horse Association. Again, it's arabianhorses.org. And coming up next, we have Kristen at the Distance Depot talking about more products for your endurance horse. Hey, Kristen, welcome back.
Thanks for having me.
Of course, Kristen was with the Distance Depot. You can find them at thedistancedepot.com. What are we talking about today?
Well, today I thought we'd talk about a few of the fly masks that we offer and maybe our fly boots. And then I have a new product we're going to talk about real quick.
Okay.
But we could start with the fly masks.
All right.
We offer the Cashel fly masks, or Cashel, some people say. These are really nice, sturdy fly masks for out in the field. They have the Crusader. We offer them with ears, without, in different sizes, Arab and horse. We even have draft and warm blood sizes for the larger horses, and even some smaller sizes for the ponies and minis.
And they come with the nose or not, too, if I remember
They
right.
do,
Yeah.
Yep. So we offer the long nose, which if your horse has, it helps with dew poisoning, or if he has a pink nose to help with sunburn, they offer the long extended nose. And those two come with ears or without ears. And Cashel also offers a quiet ride fly mask. So that would go right on over your bridle while you're out riding to help with flies while you're out riding as well. It's a thinner mesh, so lighter weight and more comfortable for trail riding.
Okay. And we've used Cashel masks for years and years and years.
Yes, yep. And it's a great brand. And I should mention that it's great for trailering too, because for, when it's really hot in the summer and you're trailering, I have an eye veterinarian friend, and she recommends for sure to put a fly mask on your horse, because that sawdust is flying around in there if you're shipping at all with, and your hay too, and bugs, that can fly in through a window. If you have screens, they can even get around those sometimes. So it's a good thing to use while trailering as well. Okay. And they're 70% UV protectant too for the horse's eyes. So that's really nice, kind of like having sunglasses on.
All right. Very good. And they're in the $30 range, if I remember right, aren't they?
Yeah. They're about $30 somewhere in there. They get a little more expensive when you add ears or when you add the longer nose. But for the most part, they start around $25.
Okay.
And then we offer the fly-free boots, which if your listeners aren't familiar with these are awesome. They come in a set of 4, 8 different colors, and basically one size fits most. The real tiny ones, you're going to have a harder time with the fit on these. But for the most part, they fit. It says it fits all horses with an adjustable Velcro bottom on the bottom. These are open, light, and airy, and they have a plastic stay, what they call a stay, and essentially that keeps them from sagging. My horses used to live out in the field with these things. They'd lay down, roll 24/7, and they wear like iron, and the flies don't fly down into them, and they're open at the top. It's really bizarre, but it keeps your horse from having to stomp all the time, and you use a little less fly spray.
I've never seen these flies. They come in all different colors too, don't they?
Yeah. 8 different colors. So, and makes it a little easier to find if you get hot orange or lime green.
Yeah, right.
Out in the field. But ours didn't come off. They stayed really well.
Okay.
I love this product. And then the last thing, our new product is the Toclat Bucket Pro Holder. And it is a secure way, if you have a horse who likes to fool around or slosh his water bucket, this locks the handle and the back of a 20-quart flat back bucket. Don't say that really fast. But it locks this into place so that the horse can't slosh his water out or his feed, and holds it secure. One hand operation, and it just has a button that you can undo it, rinse it out, hook it back in there, and keep it nice and secure and safe for the horse.
Jennifer's horse needs this. It's always fussing with the bucket.
There are a lot of horses that need this. This is an awesome product.
I've never seen it. Is this brand new?
Brand new.
Yeah, I haven't seen this before. Wow, this is cool.
Distributed by Toklat, so one of our favorites.
It's made to be put on wood. You screw it to wood, it looks like, yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep, you can put it on fences or posts or, of course, your stall wall. You can just screw it on with, sheetrock screws.
All right, so that's the Toklat Bucket Pro Holder. And, of course, you can find everything at thedistancedepot.com. Thanks, Kristen.
Thanks so much.
And our guest coming up next is Diane Whitlock, who lives in Virginia. She has been a longtime auditor and listener of our show. So welcome, Diane. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you very much, Karen. It's a pleasure to be here.
Well, great. So we're going to talk a little bit today about riding as we are getting older. Many of us, myself and yourself, and even Glenn.
I'm not getting older.
We're getting
just a little bit.
Nope, just a little bit. Getting over 50. We're all getting into riding and riding long distance and endurance, and also riding on sometimes even older horses that they're also becoming seniors. And here we are all out there and doing it. So Diane, tell us what has gotten you excited about diving into doing long distance or endurance riding at this stage in your life?
Well, I wasn't really all that familiar with endurance, but back in the early 2000s when I moved to Florida, we had gotten 2 purebred Arabians because I left my part Arabian back in Syracuse because she had never lived in a warm climate. She was 24 years old and I wasn't going to do that to her. So we got 2 horses, and the one horse, the mare, wound up getting pitheosis and she passed. So we were in the search for another mare, and we connected with none other than Cheryl Van Dusen. And of course, Cheryl had a horse for us, the wonderful Kiera, who was a marvelous horse. My gelding was, at the time we got Kiera, I think he was about 20 because it was only about 2 years that we had Legacy. And Kiera was 19 when we got her. And of course, Cheryl, being who she is, told us all about endurance and how we would love it and how the horses would love it. And I said to her, we're not exactly spring chickens, and, the horses are pretty well up there. She says, it doesn't matter. She said, you start out slow, you condition the horse, and you do what you can. You start out doing the LDs. If you can't make it through the first time, you just keep coming back. And the first thing we did is we went to an endurance clinic. We had gone to an endurance ride that Cheryl had over at the Florida Horse Park, and we were volunteering there and just absolutely fell in love with it. I was just flabbergasted by how much fun it was, how excited the horses were. And I said, we have to do this. So we started out, we went to a clinic and loved the clinic. I think we did 10 miles at the clinic. And then we were on our way. And we've mostly done LDs, but I've been toying with the idea of moving up to a 50. But it was mainly Cheryl and our search for Kiera. And she said, it doesn't matter that your horses are that age, just condition them, condition you, and you'll get to it. And she was right.
Yeah, it's the best thing for them and for us to keep going. And I agree. You got to start, you just got to start out small and build on that, and
absolutely
and keep going. And so what do you do to physically prepare yourself and your horses?
Well, obviously riding, and physically for myself, people I might laugh at this, but walking is one of the absolute best exercises you can do for yourself. It doesn't cost you anything. You go at your own pace. You're going to build muscle, you're going to build stamina, you're going to lose weight. Walking is fabulous. You got to make sure you get enough sleep. With me, sometimes that's a crunch because I am a nurse still. thankfully down to part-time hours now, as I'm semi-retired, but getting enough sleep, getting great nutrition, hydration, and just keep riding, because you and your horse are partners, and you're only going to improve if you keep doing it together.
So what are some of the benefits of choosing an older horse?
Well, one of my pet peeves is that so many people, when a horse is approaching 20 or at 20, they're like, "Oh, horse should be retired." That's just absolutely nonsense. I tried to semi-retire my gelding Fire, who passed a number of years ago. Tried to semi-retire him. He started beating up all the other horses in the pasture, wouldn't let them get to the water. The minute I started riding him again, he was his old self. Older horses have such a value. They are steady. They have a good mind, and giving them that exercise is really going to prolong their life. It's going to keep them in good health. And, when you look at it, they're going to tell you if they can't do it. And most of the time they're telling me, "Mom, I want to do more."
Right.
And in case you didn't know, what you probably did, in 2018, P.L. Mercury completed the Tevis at age 27.
Yes.
And
we interviewed Claire Godwin.
Okay, I missed that episode. All right.
Yes, you must have. Yes.
And then Elmer Bandit, good old Elmer Bandit, age 37, 20,780 competitive male trials, competitive miles in competitive trail. And, so don't tell me an older horse is got to be, sent out to the pasture, because I've gotten some feedback from people, negative feedback from people, on how dare you start an older horse. They can do it.
Oh gosh, they can't. I mean, yes, my horses were both competing into their 20s. I know Bo was in his 20s on his last Tevis completion. So I totally agree with you. There's so many benefits to having these older horses and to keeping them going.
Oh, the best part is when we finish a 25 miler. I think I did on Boggy Creek, and I think it was 28 miles. The horses are like, "Okay, what's next?" I'm like, "You're kidding, right?" I'm spent, and you guys want to keep going. Okay.
I know that's what I tell people nowadays. The limiting factor is the rider, not the horse anymore.
Oh, absolutely. It's unreal.
Right. So what changes have you made training and working with your older horses?
Sometimes they need a little extra help while you're in training. I'll put on SMBs to make sure that they've got good support and to minimize any injuries. Hoof boots or shoes, because I will ride them on a variety of terrain, because that's what you're going to find when you're out riding. Sometimes you're going to have mud. Sometimes you're going to be crossing water. Sometimes you're going to have gravel. So I'll want to be careful with their feet. Of course, watch their diet, make sure they're getting what they need: carbohydrates for the energy, protein for building muscle, and of course, fat for their energy reserves. Regular riding. And when we do a strenuous ride, we come back, they always get a liniment bath. And most importantly, is the horse having fun? If the horse is having fun, then that's all that matters. If you're regularly conditioning them and giving them what the fuel they need to do the job, and they're having fun, then you're well on your way to getting it done.
Right. And I know this year you also joined the Horse Radio Network virtual Tevis team. I have. We're a little slow getting our miles in, but I've gotten them in. I just haven't logged them. Right. You know what, though? I know when I was getting Jovi started, 3 years ago, 4 years ago, right after I got him, I signed up for that. And we spent that 100 miles, because you have 100 days to do it in, as you know.
Yep.
And we would, even if it was a mile or 2 miles or 3 miles walking in a day.
Exactly.
And walking them around the neighborhood, even on the windy days. I'll tell you what, that that does a lot to build your relationship and also expose the horse to so many different things.
Definitely.
And then all the yard art and the windmills. I never realized I had so many neighbors with yard art that with like windmills and things that blow and move, and then all the animals too. That they see. Yeah. So all that exposure and see, of course, back then he was only 7, now he's 10. But like we were just mentioning, the benefits of having these older horses, they've already been around the block, literally, and they've seen and done all of that.
Yes, they have. Have you ever had the pleasure of riding past someone's blow up Christmas decorations on their lawn? That's fun to ride your horse past. That's really fun.
Exactly. Exactly. We've had balloons fly up out of bushes.
Oh, that's a good one.
And I mean, there's and that's just it. That's why endurance horses are so wonderful. And I know people always like to make jokes about Arabians, but I'll tell you what, for the amount of the millions of miles endurance riders have ridden Arabians, and of course other breeds as well, but especially Arabians, because I don't think they deserve the bad rap they sometimes
definitely
get.
Not.
There's very few injuries in relation to the crazy things we ride them through and past.
That's true.
They're really incredible animals. We got to give them credit for that. So when you're planning your schedule for the year, tell us a little bit about that. How do you schedule your trail rides and your training versus your competition schedule?
Right at the moment, that's kind of hit or miss because we're still living in the city, but we have a farm out in Huddleston that my husband and I are working on building ourselves, which is lots of fun. I usually go through early in the year and see what rides are closest that I can get to easier. And then I'll start building around that. I'll, check my work schedule and check what we've got to get done on the farm. And we'll squeeze in our rides. And like I said, having the virtual Tevis is great because that's just, that's training for us for going out and doing the real thing. And this is Apollo's first year at the virtual Tevis. My Apollo, he looks a lot like your Jovi, and
Can we give a plug for the HRN Virtual Tevis team? Way to go, guys! Still in the lead. Good job.
And I took him through water the first time. There was a big puddle a few weeks ago, and he absolutely amazed me. He didn't even hesitate. He's like, if mom says it's okay, I'm going. And he went right through it. And I was like, holy cow, way to go, Apollo. You get the gold star. So he's going to do great as an endurance horse. I'm really very pleased with him.
So what's the most rewarding part of all of this for you?
Being able to say we did it and promoting older horses. Everyone's saying that I'm abusing them. I should be retiring. Heck no. I am giving them the tools to have the longevity they deserve, and they love it. And it's great for me too. It gets my butt moving. It keeps me in shape, and it's just tremendous fun, and it's healthy, and I like it because I'm promoting the Arabian breed, and I'm also promoting older horses because so many people, like I said, if a horse is close to 20, they don't even want to look at it. And I'm like, are you kidding me? That's where you can get the horse with a solid mind who's been there and done that. And, they're just looking to keep going and having fun. And that to me that's the crowning achievement, is that the horse is enjoying it and I'm promoting older horses. One place that I boarded, the lady she said, can I take pictures of your horses? Because they were like 25 and 26 at the time. She's like, I got people who are saying that, their horses just hit 20 and it's no good anymore. And you guys have 25 and 26-year-olds and you're doing endurance. Can I take pictures and show them? Because people have to learn that older horses have a place in this world and they're not done. So that definitely is my reward for doing this at this age.
Mm-hmm. So do you have any events or rides planned coming up for this season?
There's a couple around that I want to do, but at the moment we are minus a tow vehicle. Got a great trailer, but we're minus a tow vehicle. I'm going to look at a nice Ford Explorer sometime this week that will be wonderful to pull it. So hopefully that deal will pan out and we'll be able to get out and do some in-person rides because I know Apollo's looking forward to that.
You can still at least get out and do those virtual Tevis miles.
Yes. And there's so many organizations offering virtual rides now. It's a blast. So at least that keeps us busy.
Good. I'm so glad you could join us. Well, Diane, thank you so much for joining in this morning. And
thanks for squeezing me in.
To keeping up with you.
Thanks for listening to me babble. I appreciate it. Thanks, Karen, and thanks, Glenn and Jen. Love what you do, and even got my husband listening to you guys. So keep it up.
Yay.
Thank you. Thanks.
All righty. Thanks a lot.
Well, Chewy is your one-stop shop from feed and supplements to supplies, medications, and more, delivered straight to your barn with fast, free shipping on orders over $49 and the convenience of AutoShip. You never have to worry about running out of the brands you trust and the products you need. You can count on Chewy to keep your barn stocked and your horse happy. Start shopping today at chewy.com/equine. That's chewy.com/equine. Well, I think we can probably relate to that whole conversation about us getting older, horses getting older. I mean, you went through that, but you kept yours going for a long time.
I did. I rode Chief for 20 years and Bo for somewhere in the teens, and they both passed into their 20s. I wish they would have lived longer. We always do, but Bo was still, he was in his 20s on his last Tevis, and he reached 10,000 miles. And then Chief was up in his mid to late 20s. And if it hadn't been for COVID, I would have still been, riding him. And I think I did over 15 years of AERC competitions with him. And then, of course, we had the COVID thing and the ride shut down, which was kind of a bummer. But I'll tell you, it's such a blessing to have these older horses, and they're wonderful. You can do everything. They've been around the block and they've seen and done it all. And,
you realize that. My wife is too. You realize that when you have to train a new one again and you've forgotten all the things they don't know.
Especially like I'm teaching the new ones just how to deal with like something simple like a water hose.
Yeah, exactly. Jennifer had her new gaited horse out and did the longest ride she's done, like 5 or 6 miles, and came across. We haven't had rain we don't get rain in the winter here, so our rainy season started, and he came across a puddle for the first time, and that was terrifying. So it's like
yes,
all that
there's
stuff.
So much. I know. All those little things you don't remember because it was 20 years ago.
Right. And your horse just does it. And, you take it for granted. And, we
exactly.
say, we always say, well, I don't want to take it for granted. But we do, because you do. I mean, it's just you take it granted for what you know how to do and what your horse knows how to do. So, all right. Well, thank you, everybody, for tuning in. If you want to catch this podcast just by itself, not part of Horses in the Morning, it's the Endurance Rider podcast on your podcast player. You can find it there. Karen, where do they find you?
KarenChatton.com or NV Endurance Rider on Facebook.
And, of course, the Endurance episode is here for the last 10, 12 years. I don't know, a long time now. And it's every second Tuesday of the month is where you'll find Karen hanging out. So thank you, everybody, for joining us. We really appreciate it. Ashley and I will be here tomorrow. Jamie's on the road out to Flag Is Up Farm in California. And then we have the Equine Affair episode on Thursday. And, of course, there's a whole bunch of shows, like 30 plus, on the Horse Radio Network. You can find all of those at horseradionetwork.com. Thanks, Karen. Have a good one.
Thanks. Everybody be safe out there and wear your helmets.